But, you know, these are the pros. These are the best. Their two teams, the two teams are the best their countries have to offer, so a little bit of rain shouldn't make too much of a difference. I'd be surprised if we saw any drops from it.
And if this game does stay close, who do you think that'll favor today?
Well, the United States has a bunch of small handlers. We see Deb Cusson getting the disc off right there. The U.S. runs her offense through her. She and Will Deaver are going to keep the disc moving, and I think their sure hands are going to go a long way towards compensating for any slippery discs.
And Cotty Helmus calling a foul there on Lisa McGiningle.
Yep, we got a foul. Granny got a little bit too close there, and Cotty called the foul, but everything seems to be fine now, and we're moving on.
And they call her Granny? Why is that?
I actually don't know. It's a nickname she's had for a long time.
She's a little young.
Never brave enough to ask what it's about.
And Dom Fontanet with it. She scored the first U.S. goal. Gives it off to Jeff Easton.
It looks like there was a pick called, so play's stopping, but disc is staying in Easton's hands, and back in motion. And
that's one of the rule differences here in this play.
That's right. We're playing under the World Flying Disc Federation rules, and so unlike UPA rules, there is no continuation. If there is a pick called and a throw goes off and it leads to a turnover, oh, we have a goal. We got Chase stepping up and making his presence felt, scoring a big goal in the end zone.
Yeah, no penalty to call there. Will Deaver connecting with Sparling Beckley in the U.S. Back on top 3-2. That looked too easy.
That did look easy, although it looked like Will Deaver was limping a little bit at that point. He's hobbling off the field as we speak and heading over to the trainer's table. But they certainly ran that nice and easy.
And Deaver does a lot for this sport when he's not on the field. Isn't he the championship director with the UPA?
Will Deaver is the championship director. He's the person who makes the whole thing happen every October, in conjunction, of course, with lots of other helping hands. But Will is he's the guy who sets it all up and makes it happen.
And really no surprise that he's the captain of a Johnny Bravo team in Boulder, and his wife's the captain of Rare Air.
They are a great couple. They're a great ultimate playing duo there.
I bet their kids will be able to puck it pretty good, huh?
Chances are they will have some fine throws.
And we have one here is Bart Watson with the pull. This one stayed pretty low.
It was a short pull, didn't quite reach the end zone, but he kept it in bounds, and there's the U.S. just getting downfield on defense.
And now the Aussies working it back up. A flick into the corner, and Rogacki skies and sends it back into play. What a move by him, and the Aussies will score easily. Elizabeth Eady coming home with it. That got the fans going.
Adam, that was great. That was what we call a greatest. Rogacki kept the disc in play by jumping up out of bounds, catching the disc, and throwing it back to a teammate while he was airborne. What a great play.
That looked almost hopeless for the Aussies, but he was able to not just beat two defenders, but do some fancy foot and arm work.
Well, it should have been a turnover, but Rogacki saved it for the team, kept it in play, and they scored an easy goal after it came back.
Something like that add a lot of momentum, you think?
It's definitely a big momentum builder.
So the Aussies tie it back up at 3. We'll be back to Duisburg after this on CSTV. And we're back from timeout and back from what they call the greatest, a greatest, by Tom Rogacki to help the Aussies tie this thing up.
An incredible play to bring the score even at 3s, Adam. It was really a remarkable play. Great presence of mind and awareness of where his teammates were and what his chances were for saving that disc.
The Aussies called timeout after they scored, and Rogacki and the Aussies getting ready to pull one here. Let's see if they can also clamp down on defense against their U.S. opponents, the U.S. in blue, Australia in yellow with green trim.
Oh, and it looks like we have our first brick pull, Adam. It's landed out of bounds.
Near a feather.
Near a feather. And so that means that the U.S. is going to get a big advantage. They get to take the disc 20 yards upfield in the dead middle of the field. Huge advantage.
So that's that. You know, you say 20 yards, and football fans might think it's like a touchback, but it's actually a much bigger advantage.
Well, the field is only 70 yards long, so it's a good percentage of the field. And when you consider that the end zone is 25 yards deep, a good pull that lands in the back of the end zone is 45 yards deeper than where you get it off of a brick.
Jesse Witt controlling and gives it off to Easton, and he's looking to go long right now.
Easton definitely wants to crank it.
Instead, they're working the sideline, and it's Zip. And he's throwing into the end zone, and there is a score for the U.S. Deb Cusson coming down with it. The Carleton College grad who won a national title in her club days makes it 4-3 U.S.
They made it look easy. Deb is one of the best cutters in the game, one of the best handlers as well, and she catches a perfect pass from Zip.
And you notice on the roster here, one of 3 players from Carleton College.
That's right. Carleton is well represented this weekend. Fine school for ultimate players, it seems. Well, the word in is that Will Deaver has actually torn his calf muscle. He's hoping to get it taped up and is going to try and come back in, but it looks like he certainly hurt himself there a few points ago.
Well, Coach Munter has 4 people on the bench at all times, and now it's going to be 3 if Deaver can't come back, and that'd be a big loss, just skill and also leadership.
It certainly would be. Will is clearly one of the calm, older heads on the team. You know, he keeps everybody in line. He's good for motivation, and he's good for keeping the flow going. It'll hurt him if he can't make it back.
And speaking of keeping the flow going, you know, they talk about the spirit of the game and the sportsmanship of calling your own penalties. We see Chase pulling off there, and one of the things he said about the spirit of the game is he loves the fact that even if you don't like your opponent, specifically, personally dislike the guy, if he makes a nice play, you help him up, you say good job, and there he didn't do a great job with the pull.
He didn't. That pull landed out of bounds. That's exactly what we were talking about. 3 feet shorter, it would have been in the back of the end zone, and now they're getting to walk it up. But you're right. Chase and other ultimate players really like that aspect of the spirit of the game. It's about respecting your opponent. You can battle hard, you can compete, you can lay it all on the line, but at the end of the day and at the end of the game, you're respecting the person you're out there battling with.
And since that went out the back of the end zone rather than just landing in the back of the end zone, that's like a 40-yard difference for the Aussies to take over.
Yep, the Aussies get to walk it up. They get to set a play. Oh, it looks like we've got a pick called, but they now get to run whatever offensive set they want. And the disc is moving back to Liz Eady, and we're back in play.
And you mentioned, you know, the pick was called in the spirit of the game of calling your own penalties. But forget penalties. We got a turnover. The U.S. trying to take quick advantage. Miranda Roth with it.
Looks like one of those WFDF rules. Oh, no, it was a stall. She got stalled on the mark, so the disc actually goes back to where it got stalled. The interception didn't count, but it is still a turnover for the U.S.
And so what happened with the stall is that the Aussies took 10 seconds to throw it.
That's correct. They get to count from 1 to 10. If you can get to 10 before the thrower throws it, it's a turnover.
And it's the defensive player, the marker on the Aussie who's counting out loud.
That's correct.
Okay.
So now with the first break opportunity, the U.S. is looking to score off of that turnover. They're working the disc downfield.
Yeah, Zip pivoting crazily. We see umbrellas popping up. We also saw a couple players falling down now as the rain continues to fall here in Duisburg. Could
be getting a little bit slippery. We got a foul on the mark. It could be that there was a little slippage and some contact. High stall count. Miranda's getting a little tense with the disc. She puts it up. Oh, and it's a turnover.
Now the Aussies will try to take advantage. I imagine it's a little nerve-wracking when you have someone in your face counting to 10 when you've got to get rid of the disc.
The best throwers just absolutely tune out the markers. If you can ignore the marker and just throw, you'll be fine.
And now what do we have here?
Well, it looks like we had a turnover, and right after the turnover happened, there was a pick called in the end zone. I think the disc is going to stay with the Australians. It's going to go back to where the turnover happened.
We've seen a lot of calls here in the last minute, Jude. I imagine, you know, I know the spirit of the game, it's a beautiful thing, but aren't there ever arguments?
There certainly usually are arguments. At top tournaments around the world, around the country, you'll always see people contesting what they think was the right call.
Well, the U.S. not contesting this huck rather, and the Aussies landing inches from the end zone. It looks like they're going to score here if Sarah Wentworth can get the disc back in her hands, but the Aussies instead